So this whole episode is just gonna be on Blood Quantum. We finally got to see this movie. We all loved Rhymes for Young Ghouls, Jeff Barnaby's first movie, and when it was announced that he's making a movie about natives and zombies, we were all like, hell yeah. Let's see that. Because on this show, we tend to, this show is, it caters for, comic books, horror, sci-fi, geek culture. That's what we talk about on here. But we try to, because we're all Native American on here, we try to, give the indigenous perspective on Native Americans in pop culture. And there's not much, we talk about it every week, how there is a huge lack of Native Americans in pop culture. Usually in comic books or movies, natives are the sidekicks. They're in the background. They just don't get enough exposure. There's not enough Native American.
Shit's corny.
Yeah, it is. Very stereotypical. We talk about Warpath and Danny Moonstar and how they still run around with feathers in their hair. And Red Wolf is even in the modern contemporary times, he's running around in buckskin and feathers and shit. And how it's frustrating being Native American comic book fans to see such stereotypes still perpetuated in this modern time. So when we heard about this, when we heard about a movie, a horror movie with natives in it, we were all excited. We were finally, especially by a native filmmaker. We knew that we were going to get a true native portrayal of indigenous people, telling the stories from our perspective. And that's what made us so excited about this. We finally got to see Blood Quantum, directed by Jeff Barnaby, written by him. He edited it. He scored the movie.
Correct.
So what'd y'all think?
The first thing I want to say was this was like the first native flick I've seen in a long time where I wasn't pissed off or sad afterwards.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like this movie made me feel good. I was just so stoked to see a movie that wasn't about some sad shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
There's most Native American movies, they're usually about tragedy. They're usually bummers to watch. I mean, we talked about the movie Indian Horse a couple weeks ago, and what a bummer it was to watch. That movie was such a bummer, and it pissed me off, and I was bummed out at the end. And so many Native American movies are about that, are about the tragedy of how it is to be a native. And that gets tiring. I want, especially as comic book fans, as geeks and nerds, I watch movies for escapism. I want to have fun. And a lot of Native American movies are not fun to watch. Sure, we have, a few of them, Smoke Signals and Powwow Highway and Thunderheart have sort of uplifting message to it. But a lot of these stories are full of tragedy, and they're just a bummer. So yeah, watching Blood Quantum, we're seeing natives kick ass and be cool and in a horror movie.
For me, I was thinking how this. There is a couple the Powwow Highways, that keep it real and stuff. But this how this keeps it real. But most of the other ones, they're corny. Like Isaiah was mentioning. To me, it's almost like they it's made by natives, but for what she choose or white people to watch or just the world to see. You know what I'm saying? They don't really make movies for us.
Yeah.
How Powwow Highway kept it real. That was for us. And then once in a while it comes along. Where there's movies for natives, made by natives for natives. You know what I mean? And that's what I think this makes this so genuine and beautiful. And that's how I felt about this. Is a movie for us.
Yeah.
We got us a fucking zombie movie now.
Yeah, I mean, the
finally.
Yes.
Finally.
Yeah, finally. I mean, that's the thing about this movie is the native perspective is the focus of Blood Quantum, and it is geared. The demographic is natives, and you don't see that. You don't see a movie that caters to a Native American audience. Native Americans who watch this will understand what this movie is trying to get at.
Yep.
It's not watered down. It's not homogenized or glossed over or, trying to, insinuate any sort of white guilt or anything. It's just like, these are natives living their lives. This is who we are. And this is for natives to watch,
Mm-hmm.
and then they it's basically, it is a Native American movie disguised as a horror flick.
Yeah.
So it's a zombie movie that takes place on the reservation, the Mi'kmaq Reservation in Canada. A zombie outbreak happens. Zombies are attacking the res, but it turns out natives are immune to this virus. It is only infecting the white people. So what the natives do is they close off the borders to the reservation. And the reservation sort of they basically quarantine the res. And the reservation becomes like a safe haven for, the survivors. But Native Americans are immune to the virus. And you have this dynamic of, there's like the militant natives that want to just wipe out the zombies and the white people. And then you have the more, empathetic natives that want to welcome in the refugees and have a more peaceful solution. And they're more humane, so they're welcoming in the white people. And even though they have the risk of becoming infected, they do welcome in all the survivors. And this, of course, creates conflict within the reservation. And we launch into this generally just a movie about Native Americans dealing with things they always deal with. This is basically a reflection of what natives deal with every day. Only this happens to be there's zombies happening. It's first and foremost, it's a family drama. We have Michael Greyeyes, the chief of police, the tribal chief of police. He's got these two sons, and so there's this family dynamic going on where the sons are getting in trouble. He had, of course, the ex-wife, there's some drama there. And he's just trying to deal with his everyday life, his everyday drama. And then this zombie outbreak happens. So essentially this movie is just a family drama with Native Americans. And then zombies attack,
Yeah.
So.
Well, the whole dynamic, like from the beginning, zombie fish, you know what I'm saying? That shit. That shit just was like, I was like, oh shit, they started off like this, it's as simple as it is, but you register, I just never thought of that, like, oh shit, zombie fish, and then the dog, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just from the beginning, from the get go, and I really liked the grandpa, really,
yeah, he was a badass.
Registered with me, you know what I mean? As soon as that character, whatever, I really gravitated to the grandpa.
And that deals with the environmental issues. The dead fish are coming back to life, and that sort of represents the environmental disasters that are going on the reservations. Our water's being poisoned, the land is being poisoned. The pipelines are being put through native land, and it's native. The reservations always have to suffer for it. The health with their health and just the environmental catastrophes that happen always affect the natives first. So I mean, this old man notices the dead fish are coming back to life, and that just foreshadows the events to come.
The fucking baby, the fish is eating the baby, and fucking the dick, the fucking bitch ate the dude's dick. That's never. Have we seen that in any zombie movie yet? Someone eating a zombie, like zombies eating dick.
I don't know.
I haven't seen it.
That was fun. Yeah, there was a lot of very dark humor in this movie. It was layered with a lot of dark humor. How the natives were, like when they finally board off the reservation and they're letting in all the white refugees, and the one kid is, what's his name, Lysol, is like, yeah, we're telling all the white girls that if you suck our dicks, you'll be immune.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Power dynamic shifts.
Yeah. Yeah. You see the power. I mean, yeah. I'm not going to get into the political shit yet because it's layered with all this political commentary. But yeah, there was a lot of really dark humor going on in this movie, and that was one of them. Yeah, where the girl bites that guy's dick off and shit. But yeah, the scenes like that really those were the horror tropes that this movie was this movie had to suck in horror fans, But but at the core, it was still a movie about natives and all the shit that they deal with. This is just shit they deal with every day. And what I liked about this movie, fuck it, I'm going to get into the commentary then. Fuck it, since we're here. The whole thing, how, especially George Romero. He made all the zombies, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. He made these zombie movies, but he layered them with all this social commentary. The zombies in George Romero's movies, they sort of represent the dark side of humanity. Especially at the times that they were made, whether it be the Vietnam War or civil rights, or in later movies, classism and racism. The zombies in George Romero's movies, just were a metaphor for the dark side of humanity. And those movies made statements about the times that they were released. This one, in Blood Quantum, the zombies represent colonization and all the negative effects of colonization and the genocide of Native Americans. We see this Native American family deal with just everyday drama, just their everyday problems. That's the core of this movie. But then the zombie threat happens, and then they got to deal with that. So the zombies, like I said, represent colonization and all the negative effects that comes with that natives are constantly dealing with. And that's what happens with natives in everyday life. We live our lives. We deal with all our personal crap, all the stuff we got to deal with in our everyday lives. But we also have to we still feel the pressures of colonization, of the genocide of our people. We still feel those pressures, whether it be, racism or, land grabs or pipelines or alcoholism or poverty or whatever. Those threats are always in our lives. And we're constantly dealing with that shit as well as our normal everyday family drama. That's just the essence of being native. And that's what this movie is capturing. It's like the zombie apocalypse happens and the natives just deal with it. It's just another thing they got to deal with because they're always dealing with shit all the time. So it's funny. I find the idea that the Native Americans being immune to this virus very amusing. I love that idea. It's like, in a zombie apocalypse, natives are going to be just fine because they've dealt with oppression and genocide for over 500 years. Like, a zombie apocalypse ain't going to be shit.
Right.
It's just, they'll deal with the zombie apocalypse like they've dealt with everything else. They will adapt and survive because that's what natives do.
Yeah. Our immunities.
Our resiliency. Our resiliency and our will to survive. We are survivors. That's just what we do. A zombie apocalypse, it's just another apocalypse. Like I've said before, natives are living in a post-apocalyptic world. Natives had their world destroyed. Natives had their way of life destroyed. This modern-day civilization is a post-apocalyptic world to indigenous people. Yeah, and we've dealt with it. Our families and our ancestors have dealt with this shit before. So here comes a zombie apocalypse in this movie, and they just adapt and survive.
Yeah, they're getting bit and shit, and nothing's happening.
Yeah, they're immune. They're immune.
Stitches and shit.
Yeah, they're immune.
Yeah, right.
I also like the fact that this movie opened up with that Bible verse about, conquering another land and smashing their altars and taking their wives and their sons or whatever the hell. And it's from a Bible verse. I think it's from Exodus or whatever, a book in a Bible. But the movie refers to it as an ancient settler proverb.
Yeah.
So it's not referring to it as the Bible. It's totally dismissing the Judeo-Christian point of view and just forcing the audience to look at this through native eyes, through the native perspective. That religion was just a justification for genocide, native genocide. Yeah. Of how do we deal with it? That's what this movie also asks. What do we do about colonization? How do we deal with the effects of what has happened to natives? the genocide and the oppression of natives. Like, how do we get past it? How do we deal with that? That's what this movie asks. And at the one hand, you see, you know, the more empathetic natives, they want sort of this sort of coexistence, you know. But you have the other natives, the angry natives, the pissed off militant natives that just want to wipe them out, you know. So that's what we deal with. Again, another reflection of what Native Americans constantly deal with in our everyday lives. We want to coexist, we want to get along with everybody, but we still have this deep traumatic depression and anger and frustration of what has happened to us and what has happened to our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors. That's a constant conflict within every native. You know what I mean? That like Lysol and Gary Farmer and Devery Jacobs' character, they represent native anger. You know, kind of like Black Panther, Killmonger's character. You know,
historical trauma.
Yes, historical trauma. That's what that is. They represent the historical trauma and the anger and the frustration that all natives feel, and how they just want to lash out, you know, and get revenge and white, you know, and take over and, you know, and all that. That's always going on within us, you know. And of course,
it's like fuck it, it's happening to them. It's, you know, just let nature take its course. Fuck them type of deal, you know, or that kind of attitude. Like, fuck it, it's their turn now, or some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like they end up, you know, the natives get the power, and some of them want to wield it just like the tyrannical, you know, colonizers. You know, they stoop to their level, you know, and then you got, you know, there's that constant reminder of like, we're better than that. You know what I mean? And I think that's where the kid, Forrest Goodluck's character, the one son, how he gets the white girl pregnant.
Yeah.
And the white girl being pregnant with the native boy's child, that represents forgiveness. You know what I mean? That represents some sort of reconciliation. Like, this is the hope for the future, that love, in the end, love is the answer, you know, as corny as that sounds, but that is the key. You know, we have to find a way to exist with each other, you know, because overthrowing power, it's just an endless cycle. We have to find a way to come together. And, you know, that shot at the end when they are on the boat, that totally reminded me of the movie Children of Men, the ending of Children of Men, when they're on the boat and they sort of have this, they're not a part of any sort of country, or they're not on any land anymore. They are just floating and searching for a new tomorrow, a new future. And that's what that movie represented to me, or that shot in the movie with the boat, when they're on the boat in the river and she gives birth to the baby. That's what that represented, a hope for a new future.
But then also too, because remember she was telling, love her, you know, love her. Remember the mom was telling him to love her. And,
yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah. And then also what you were telling me last night too, mention that too.
What was that?
About the boat, her giving birth on the boat.
We'll mention it. Good. I don't remember I talked a lot of shit last night.
Oh, about the Sky Woman.
Oh,
reference.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, that shit was deep as fuck, man.
Yeah.
Mention that shit.
So, yeah, that's what it reminded me of. So, it reminded me of Children of Men. So, when they're on the boat and she gives birth to the kid, it reminded me of the Mohawk creation story of Sky Woman coming down, going onto the turtle's back in the water and giving birth to the mother of the twins and all that. It reminded me of the creation story of the Mohawk, you know.
Yeah. Being the boat being the turtle's back, they're on the water, you know, Mother Earth and all that shit.
Yeah.
That's symbology. That shit was fucking dope. How you caught that? I didn't catch that, but you caught that. That shit's deep, man.
But yeah, I mean, that's what that reminded me of the Mohawk creation story. You know, they're on the boat. You know, again, it's all about creation, the creation of a new world. And when I mean the world, I don't mean like a new country or a new land, or I'm not even talking about land. I'm talking about the birth of a new era, of a new consciousness, of a new way of thinking.
Yeah.
That's what that represents. You know.
Yeah.
You know, a birth of a new attitude, a new philosophy, or whatever.
And then even with that, see, when you brought that up to me, and I'll start listening to it, and then I went back and watched it today, and then I started realizing the dynamic between the two brothers, and that almost represents the creation story in itself. The creator and then the evil twin. You know what I'm saying? And the two brothers, they battle, on Earth. You know what I'm saying? One creates, one destroys. And recklessly. You know what I mean? And that whole dynamic. That I was like, this shit's pretty fucking deep, man. I thought the movie was magnificent. I thought the shit was incredible, and I was so fucking happy to see it. I wish our mother got to watch it. You know what I mean? For real, because I know she probably would have loved it. Even though she wasn't into gory and all that nastiness. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It was, as a horror fan, it's okay. It's a totally serviceable horror movie. It's got gore, it's got zombies, it's got cool killing and shit. It's fine as a zombie movie. But as an indigenous movie, there's nothing like it. The ending, when the old man has the sword and he's cutting down all that horde of zombies are coming on, and then you hear that traditional singing, the native singing starts playing in the musical score. I got shivers. I was like, I've never seen that in a movie before. An old elderly native man with a samurai sword hacking up zombies to a powwow song. That's never been in a movie ever. And I got shivers. That's, as a native geek, as a native nerd, comic book fan, as a native, I've never seen my people represented that way in the movies ever. That was an inherently native representation. A Native American filmmaker put that on screen for us, and I was so moved by that scene. It gave me shivers, and I was like, yes, I felt proud. That's when I felt proud. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't see that, and that's what I'm saying, is because that scene of the Native American cutting down zombies, cutting down the white zombies,
exactly.
And white, I don't mean the band White Zombie. but that's
cutting down White Zombie.
but that scene, that scene of the native man with the sword cutting down the zombies, that's just a representation of Native Americans struggling to survive in a world of colonization, in a world of constant threat. We're constantly fighting to be heard, fighting to be recognized. That's what that scene embodies. The struggles of Native Americans to be heard and recognized in a world that is constantly trying to silence them and make them invisible. That's what that scene meant to me. And that's why I got shivers. They're constantly trying to get their voices heard, whether it be their language, their culture, their land, or in this case, Native American cinema. That's what that scene represented, because Native American movies, you can't, especially in the United States, we ain't got hardly any. There's no Native American films, barely. Maybe once every 10 years, we get to see some natives in the, on screen. Most of the time, Native Americans don't even get acting roles. So the fact that this movie exists with mostly Native American actors, Native American filmmakers and crew, that doesn't happen often. Not in the United States anymore.